Guys, welcome back to the MFC Approach podcast. As always, I feel like I always say the same thing. I'm super excited to be here again today. But really I am. I'm so happy and excited to have more guests coming on the show. And it's been a huge focus of mine because I just want to provide as much value as I can in different ways. So some of the previous episodes have been very educational with certain things in nutrition and fitness. And today, guys, honestly, I'm so excited to have a mentor, just an example, a great friend that I have honestly looked up to for a long time, even though he's a few years younger than me. But I'm so glad, guys, and super excited to have Colin Rounds here. So Colin, thanks for coming, dude. I really do appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, man. Excited to be here.
Cool, dude. As I mentioned, guys, Colin is somebody that I have known for a very long time. I mean, honestly, since he was born, basically. Me and Colin's brother were the same age and are to this day just super good friends still. And once we kind of got a little bit older, I considered Colin more of a friend instead of a little pest, which I felt like he was for a lot of years. But
I definitely was, for sure.
No, dude, it was always fun having you around with us. But it's just funny, Colin, to look back on those times of like growing up when we were just little kids, and honestly, dude, just like admire and respect the heck out of you for the success that you have had in your life after high school and stuff. One of the big things that I admire so much about Colin, guys, he is an entrepreneur and has just blazed his own trail and his own path. And again, just admire him in so many ways for that. I had the opportunity to work for Colin back in like 2017. I had a little stint there where I was working with you guys, and I just got to see more firsthand like the drive and the discipline and dedication that Colin has to being an entrepreneur. And so guys, I want to turn the time over to Colin for just a few minutes to kind of let him explain who he is, give you a little bit of background so that you guys can understand what an amazing person he is and just how he was raised and stuff. So Colin, if you want to take the time, dude, and give us an idea of who we're hearing from today.
What you got? What are you working with here? So grew up in Preston, Idaho, just down the road from the Matson family. Yep. So it was awesome. Yep. I have 3 brothers, and obviously Luke's got a couple brothers as well. So it was fun running together, raising some havoc in little Preston, Idaho. But come from a big family, so 7 siblings. I'm the lucky middle child, the black sheep of the family. So grew up there and just honestly grew up working. So had a little farm, you could say. My dad called it a hobby farm, or kind of a teach your kids to work farm. That's all it was. Like, my dad grew up farming. Like, that's what they did. Like 4 a.m., come home from school. Like, they grew up farming. So he didn't want to do that when he got older. So he did insurance and real estate and some other stuff. But always had a farm. And honestly, it was just to be able to teach us how to work, And so me and my brothers usually hated the summertime because that just meant we were going to have to work more instead of just on Saturdays, There wasn't a lot of sports going on to be able to get us out of it. But that's kind of what we grew up doing, so out with the family and looking back now too, like when you're in it, you hate it. Looking back, like as soon as I left the house and, went on my mission, like that was actually the number one thing that I missed the most, honestly. Never in a million years would I have thought that. And now that I'm older, I got 3 boys myself. Like every day we're literally looking for land and a house with land so that I can do the exact same thing to my kids. So much. But it was like so fundamental in just how I grew up and just that work ethic and how I operate today. And to like doing what I do, and I work with a ton of people of different ages, but a lot of the people that we work with in sales like are younger kids, and there's a distinct difference of the kids that grew up working and the kids that didn't grow up working. Right. And skill level doesn't matter. Right. And the talent doesn't matter. Like, but it's comes down to that work ethic, and like there's a distinct difference. And so I'm always like, all right, how do I make it so that my kids aren't, walking trash cans when they're older? And that's like, you work it out of them essentially, and so but kind of funny. So that's what we grew up doing. Super
Dude,
grateful.
I'm just gonna chip in really quick here.
Probably got a lot of you guys.
Just memories just flowing back to me right now. But dude, I just remember how absolutely terrified I was every single time we would go in the chicken coop. I don't know why. I hated the freaking chickens, dude. And every time we would walk in the chicken coop to get all the eggs, I had my back against the wall. And honestly, I feel like a sissy. I don't even know why I'm admitting this right now, but I would tell you guys, like, you guys got to go in and get them out first, and then they would like block the door off. So the chickens,
we had that little hole in the back. Yeah.
You just block it off the board, and then I would come in and help you guys do whatever, gather the eggs and stuff. But yeah, man, I to this day, I don't know. I'm not as terrified of chickens anymore, but that is just like such a vivid memory I have.
Yeah.
You guys trying to hype me up to get me in the chicken coop with the chickens in there, and I just
we did have a couple roosters, dude, for a while that were mean. Like we would take jackets out to gather the eggs and stuff. They'd chase us. Me and Cam going out there, so they definitely get a little aggressive. But yeah, I do remember that, shoving them outside.
Yeah, good stuff.
But that's what I grew up doing, and kind of just I honestly watched my dad be an entrepreneur in a lot of different stuff, and so kind of grew up just wired that way. I don't really know why. Like I love it, but it's just how I operate. Like there's definitely easier paths, and having gone through like kind of what I've gone through on my entrepreneurial journey is there's some really hard times. And a lot of times I'm like, why am I freaking wired this way? Like it'd be easier to go get a job and just have like a little bit more comfort and a little bit more stability, if you want to call it that, or whatever, or less stress really. But like, I just know I'd be completely like unsatisfied and just kind of upset. And so for some reason, just wired that way, but always grew up selling stuff. Like we used to, we had eggs on the go. Me and Cam would go, and my brother would go sell eggs to the neighbors on our go-kart, and like we just always were doing something, and trying to find a way to sell stuff and be able to make money. And so a lot of that just watching my dad and kind of his different ventures and stuff. And so from there, started selling cars when I was 18. So still in high school, actually. I detailed cars at this lot for a couple of summers. And then before I graduated, I went back and I was like, hey, like I want to try selling. And they're like, no, you're too young, because I was still in high school. Like, you're not going to do it. I was like, just give me a shot, And so I was like, all right, come in on Saturday. So I went in on that Saturday and I got lucky, I would call it, and I sold 3 cars in one day. And so they're like, all right, you're hired. So I went in and did that, for 6-7 months before I left on my mission. Went and served an LDS mission in Ecuador, so down south where it's really, really hot. Came back from that and started selling cars again, and then got into doing solar. So worked for a company called Sun Edison, helped them kind of build out an inside sales for them. And then after a couple of months doing that, said, hey, there's probably a better way to go about doing this, and decided to start up doing our own energy efficiency company. So with this energy efficiency company, kind of the funny story with it is I got invited or kind of recruited down to this convention. And this was like a week, not even, probably 5 days after my oldest son was born. So brand new baby, and me being, the idiot that I am and a new father is my first kid. I just told my wife, I'm like, hey, there's this awesome opportunity. Like I'm flying down to Dallas tomorrow. And literally our kid's 5 days old. And now obviously I have a few kids. I'm like, what was I doing? And luckily my wife is the most supportive human being in the world. And so she's like, all right, sounds good. And then come to find out later, she was like, called her mom crying. She's like, he just left. So, but But anyway, so I go down to this convention. Absolutely, like met the owner of this manufacturing company that did energy efficiency products, and just absolutely loved what they're doing. Like, could see the vision of what it could be. And again, that entrepreneurial like switch kicked in. I was like, all right, let's do it. So quit my job again, a week-old baby at this point, and quit. Walked away from benefits and salary and that sort of stuff. I was like, I'm gonna go do it, So just kind of bet on myself. And then my next super smart move was I put, I think, 50 grand on my father-in-law's credit card to order inventory. So I was just knocking it out of the park as a new husband and father.
Oh, bro.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we got started. And looking back, I'm like, dude, that's wild,
That is
wild. But just kind of bet on myself and made it happen. So we grew that company just by myself at first, and then slowly started to kind of recruit people and bring people in. Grew that to the point it was doing about $10 million a year in revenue, which is awesome. We're in a bunch of different states. Kind of going into a lot here, but
good,
we do, and this too. This is when you were working with us for a little bit. But
this is the one that I was part of.
Yeah, so we do energy efficiency products for people's homes, but the way that we marketed it is the majority of all of our revenue came from, we would do like these dinner seminars. So we'd send out a bunch of postage mail. It's the most antiquated old thing, but it worked like butter. It was just nice. So we'd send out this postage, say, come get a free dinner. We're going to teach you about how to save money on your electricity bills and your gas bill. And it's free. Come to this like nice restaurant. So we do pretty nice restaurants. So we were spending a bunch of money. We were in, we were probably doing 15 to 20 of these dinners every single week in a few different locations. And that's how we did, the majority of all of our revenue came from that. And did that for, several years. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and overnight, like our entire business model got shut down.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't even think about that, dude.
Overnight. And so we had one restaurant, I don't remember where it was. The rep calls and they're like, hey, they're shutting it down. Like they won't let us in, and we'd already spent all the money and everything. And then slowly, like within a matter of a couple of days, like everyone started to make that decision. Then the states came out and shut it, And so at that point we're like, all right, what are we going to do? And we had started to couple back in energy efficiency and doing some solar and stuff like that. But then we're just like, all right, let's pivot and went back and just started knocking doors again. Started knocking doors and changed up kind of some of our product set and some of the solutions that we were able to offer. But was able to go through an exit with that company, and then worked for the company that actually ended up purchasing that, doing solar as well, or just doing sales for them, kind of coming on as a kind of just leadership and management for them. And then just have dabbled in some other stuff from, some pest control companies that we bought just down here where I live. And I'm really, really interested in real estate and try to be as involved in that as I possibly can. But for me, sales is awesome. Like, I know it's not for everybody, and definitely not the career a lot of people love, but I love it because to me, it's not like the used car salesman, even though I did sell cars, mainly new cars, I'll say, not used ones, but it's not like the sleazy, sales guys suck. Like, to me, it's helping people. Right. And so it's being able to stand behind something of like truly beneficial to the homeowner or to the client, whoever you're selling. But as I've kind of grown different companies, like for me, it comes about creating an opportunity, and that's kind of like my personal manifesto or whatever you want to call it, or like my why behind it for my people. Right. And I think you saw that too, of like, it's an awesome vehicle to be able to take people that either don't know what they're doing or just are looking for a different opportunity or want to make more money or stuck in a job that they've hated for 15 years, like most people, and just want something different. So it's like, it's been able to create a vehicle to be able to provide, them success. And it's really cool for me to be able to see them progress kind of financially, their skill set, their confidence. We had 2 of our guys this last year that, older, I shouldn't say older, 40s, in their 40s, but like bought their first home that they've ever owned and renting their whole life and bought. And so for me, I'm like, that's what it's all like. That's the cool thing, like that's what it's all about for me. And if you can do that coupled with a product that you believe in and that you know is really benefiting people, then that's what I love about it, about sales, right? It's not necessarily selling, and I love all that side. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm capitalist. I love making money, but it's like,
Yeah.
that's the side for me that's the most rewarding of it, you know? So, yeah, kind of jumped around a little bit. There's a lot of crazy and cool stories and stuff in there, but that's kind of what I did. Didn't go to school really. I actually did start going to school. I did online school for a minute. Was super excited to do that. I logged in. I went through one class online, and then my very next class, they were going through the syllabus. Is that what it's called? The syllabus.
Yep. Yep.
We're going through the syllabus, and they wanted us to order a rock kit for $300, and I was broke, right, fresh off my mission. It's like for geology. I'm like, what am I doing? So I closed my laptop and never logged in again. So I went to 4 hours of college. But I've done a lot of continuing education and just kind of school of hard knocks, you know. So I've made a lot of money. I've definitely lost a lot of money. So my wife always says, she's like, you got a very expensive education. But just learning the game of entrepreneurship, you know, like I've made a ton of mistakes and have been able to kind of learn from those. But so yeah, I did get in a very expensive education, but not really the traditional way that most people do.
But I mean, let's be real, dude. I don't know. The way I feel about education is there's so many different ways to get it, right? So even though yours wasn't a 4-year bachelor's degree, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that your education is probably 10 times more valuable than a 4-year bachelor's degree. So I love it, dude. I love it. I love that you spent 4 hours of going to college and that was about it. So
yeah, dude, that's all I could handle. I'm just like,
good for you.
What am I doing? So yeah, crazy.
Good for you. I'm the type of person that just found the quickest degree possible that I could get, and
that's what I mean. That's what most people do, and I think education in college is important, but it'll be interesting though too to see how things change now with even just the internet though. Like you remember when we were going to school, even doing math, which was my worst subject, but they're like, you got to learn it because you're never just gonna have a calculator in your pocket. It's like, I do.
Yeah, I do actually all the time.
So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that changes. And I think you're starting to see some of the schools and stuff adapt and have a little bit more like hands-on, or even down here in St. George, they have like a high school that's a trade school now that you can go through, and that's your so like I think stuff like that's really cool, but how much hands-on experience can you get? And for me, I'm always just like the best way to figure it out is just to dive in and do it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's certain things that you definitely need school for, but there's definitely a lot that I'm like the guy up there teaching me about entrepreneurship that's never had a business before. You know,
doesn't make a lot of sense.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, you know. So yeah, I think it's good. Everyone kind of has their different path, but definitely not necessary, even though that is kind of the expectation. Like I was the only one in my, again, family of 8 that didn't get a degree.
Gotcha.
That was like some weird conversations and what are you going to do? And my mom and siblings, I didn't think it at the time. I was just ready to take on the world, but 23, hey, I'm starting my business and I quit my job with a new kid. Like if my little brother was doing that right now, I'd be like, dude, like chill out a little bit, you know? But it's hard, right? When the people that you look up to and care about are saying, hey, do this. And you're like going the other way. But at the end of the day, if the vision's there and again, you're betting on yourself and willing to put in the work for it, then I think it'll work for anybody, you know, degree or not, doesn't matter.
For sure, man. I mean, looking back, right? I mean, you wouldn't change anything, would you? Well, maybe some things, but
yeah, I definitely would change some stuff, but then it's like, but you really wouldn't, right? Because it's everything that happened has led you to where you're at, or you meet different people or learn something. And so I think one of the biggest things that I would have learned is just asking for more help. Because I think a lot of times you're either like in competition with people or you think that people don't want to help you. But it's like the reality is anyone that's truly successful and is at a higher level than you will give advice freely. Like they want to help and they see some of themselves in you. And I think a lot of times I'm like was scared or hesitant or whatever, or like nowadays with all the online stuff, it's like there's some guru for everything and they want to charge you for it or whatever. But it's like anyone that's truly successful, like they'll give that advice freely. And so one of the sayings that I really like is like the smartest people learn, smart people learn from their own mistakes, but the smartest people learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. And so like there could have been a lot of stuff that I could have avoided, and like a lot of potential like loss of money and hard times and stress and everything. Right. Had I just been willing to ask and like put myself close to somebody that way. So that's probably the one thing that I would say I would change. But then again, it's like I'm grateful now looking back, now that you're through it, for those lessons, even though at the time it's like terrible,
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so
Love it, dude. Love it. Well, thanks for sharing all that. I mean, that was kind of one of the first questions that we were going to talk about, Colin, was just kind of like, what has your career path looked like, and how have you gotten to where you are today, and what different things have you done? So that was great, dude, and I really do appreciate you sharing that. I guess obviously, Colin, I mean, what I do is I help people right with their fitness and their nutrition. And even though today, we're not going to get into a lot of, super nitty gritty details of fitness and nutrition. One thing that I have really admired about your whole journey, right, of being an entrepreneur and stuff, is that you have prioritized your health and your fitness, and in different ways at different times. And so I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit too. I mean, even balancing or juggling all that you've had to juggle for the past, I mean, how many years has it been since you first started? I mean, 11 years ago that you first started your business.
Yeah. 10, 11 years. Yeah. That's
it's
crazy.
Like how over the past decade have you prioritized your fitness and your health while trying to juggle, starting businesses and running businesses and stuff?
Yeah, it's hard, man. And I used to like stress out a lot more about it. And I think everyone does at some point, where we all have goals, right? And it's like very rarely do we I mean, the numbers on New Year's resolutions and all that stuff, but it's like, even for all of us that would consider ourselves disciplined, we're not disciplined in all things, right? So like there's different buckets that everybody has to check. And so it's like, you first of all, just realizing like you're not at that level where you have to have some expectation to be some superhuman. It's like, for me, like I consider myself really dialed in on some stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, if all I changed out of everything was to do with 100% execution what I told myself I was going to do, how much further along would I be? And like, that gap's astronomical. But it's like, there's different things between family and business and fitness and your spiritual side and your social side. Like there's all these different things. And so the first thing I've realized is like, there is a season to everything, right? So it's like, there's going to be times where I'm like super awesome dad and I'm there all the time. And I might not be doing that good on the friendships with other people or business or spiritual side. And then there's times where like, I mean, even this past year, like we've gone through a really hard time in transition our business. And so it's like going back to that conversation with my wife of like, all right, like buckle up again. Like we're going to go back into growth mode and restart. And she's on board with it. And I'm traveling and rebuilding teams and implementing new stuff that we're doing. So it's like, and now I'm gone a little bit more with my kids, so it's like, there's always those different times. Overall though, is like, how am I growing and developing in each one, I think is really important. But like the whole idea of balance stuff is like, it doesn't really exist. Like it doesn't, like people's like, I want balance. Like there's no balance, because one of two things is like, you're trying to be balanced. And this too, like being a parent, like you're spending time with your kids. What are you thinking about a lot of the time?
Business and work and providing.
Yes. And then I'm gone and trying to provide, and I'm thinking about like, freak, I should be home with my kids, right? Or I missed the game, like whatever, right? So it's like, it doesn't exist really. So it's like, try to be present where you're at. Like when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. But one of the things that I really like is Jesse Itzler. I don't know if you know who he is, but like serial entrepreneur. He owns All Day Running Company, if you've heard of that. He's a stud, but he talks about one of the things that helped me a ton is like, just take your vitamins. I'm like, what does that even mean? What that means is he essentially went down and wrote down, all right, here's like the staples, or in each category, like the couple of things that I know I need to be doing no matter what. And it could be that you come up with one or two for everything, right? So for business, for whatever. And then he's like, you need to take at least 2 to 3 vitamins a day. So you might have a list of 10 things, right? So it's like, it could be, talking to God could be one of your things. It could be going to the gym. It could be sweating. It could be spending time with your kids. It could be, if your business, making X amount of phone calls. Like those are your vitamins, right? Of what you need to do to move forward in all those aspects. And so it's not that you need to do every single one every single day, but try to focus on doing either one from each category or a couple every single day, right? And so that's what's really helped me, right? And so I'll just share kind of my vitamins. So it's like, obviously business right now, as I talked about, like in this growth mode is more of a priority. So I can't go and work out 6 days a week and dedicate all that time. And a lot of it's because I'm traveling and gone. But I like one of my vitamins, I'm going to sweat every single day. Right. So it may not be a full workout, but like I'm going to find a way to sweat. Right. So whether it's taking naps or taking a hike and while I'm on call or whatever, but that's one of them. Right. So it's like, I really like that when he said it, because like instead of trying to do everything, or I'm pissed because I didn't get a full workout in that day, it's like I still took my vitamin, I still moved forward in that category, right? Or even with your kids or spiritual or whatever. So that's what I've really liked as far as just trying to be able to balance it all, because it's freaking tough. And I don't know anybody that you ever asked that question of like, how do you achieve balance? Like no one's answered it. Ever, right? Like I think everybody struggles with that. But with that though, I will say like the fitness side of it has played a huge role, like in my journey, so to speak. Like just being able to have the clarity that you gain from being able to go to the gym and get everything flowing in the morning. I like to work out in the morning, but it's like, I realized too, a lot of times where I tried to cut out the gym completely, I would try to save an hour or an hour and a half, but like my day was, I just felt drained the entire day and my mental clarity wasn't as sharp. So it's like really that hour that I saved wasn't really doing anything for me anyways. Like I was so much more productive had I started an hour and a half later and got way more done. And then even I think right when you were working with us, like we competed and did that men's fitness competition. Crazy respect to everybody that does that like over and over again, because it's like it was so cool. And like the process and the journey of getting there, getting up on stage and doing that like wasn't really my thing. But what I did love was like the amount of discipline that it takes to get that dialed in. Right. And I don't know if you could get that dialed in without like that big goal in mind, at least for me, because I'm just not at that discipline. But it's like having the date and knowing that I didn't want to get up on stage and look terrible. We've all seen those videos, right? The dude in the competition just looks you shouldn't be there. I want to be that guy. But it's like it was cool to see the parallels of like the discipline that took and the organization that took and the planning that took played a huge role in our business as well at that point. And I actually had the opportunity to do it with 2 of my business partners as well. So it's like we were all dialed in on the same page, and just those parallels. And so it's like the habits that you have, the consistency that you have, like all it is just becoming part of kind of who you are. And so I think that'll play a role. The saying, I love is how you do some things, how you do everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, whether it's fitness or business or whatever, like if you can't complete something or if you don't hold up what you say you're going to do on one end, like there's no way that you're going to do it on the other end, right? Or in the other bucket, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's just from a discipline standpoint and a planning standpoint, and then all the other benefits, but of just like kind of keeping your sanity as well. Like the gym now has become kind of my break from the stress and everything. Like able to put my phone on do not disturb and just be in my own thoughts or listen to a podcast or even music. Sometimes it's just nice to like be able to be there and just kind of have that escape, so to speak, from everything else. So
that's one of the things that I feel like, I mean, in just working with the clients that I have, that's something that has been mentioned to me before, is just it's interesting. The one dude I'm thinking of specifically is actually an entrepreneur too, who's just, I mean, he's always got somebody reaching out to him, you know, with some sort of an issue that they're having at
Yep.
one of his locations or whatever it may be. And that's one thing that I really love, man, is like it truly is an opportunity to kind of reset a little bit and to mentally kind of get your footing again, because I
Yeah.
feel like it's so easy throughout the day of just chaos to kind of lose your footing and lose focus a little bit on, you know, some of the things that may be most important. And so I do love that a lot. And I truly do love the take your vitamins thing too. I never heard that before. What was the guy's name that you said?
His name's Jesse Itzler.
Jesse Itzler.
Yeah. I'll try to
Take
send
your
you,
vitamins though.
you can post it or whatever. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
just cool because I've always just struggled with it, and he's like, come up with it, and like you just take your vitamins every day, and then you feel good about it. You accomplish your goal, whatever that was, but then you're like still moving forward in all those categories instead of putting one completely on the back burner. And I've loved that you've posted that too, right? Of like your health doesn't have to be put on the back burner just because you're busy or whatever it may be, or even the mental side of it. It's like all of that stuff real, like getting burnout at work's real, like being stressed at work's real, mental health's real, but it's like it's also real to eat good and to do exercise and to get steps in. Like all that's really real too.
Yeah.
Right. So how can I balance all of that? Is I don't have to be perfect in all of it, but as long as I'm popping the vitamins every day, then I'm good. So it's really helped me, even just from a mental side of like I'm good. You know, I don't have to stress out that I whatever. Right?
Yeah. It's dude. I mean, I primarily work with busy dads, right, who have full-time jobs and families, and I just one thing after another, and it's like, man, how is anybody supposed to find the time to exercise and eat good and stuff like that? But bottom line is like priorities, right? It's like we have to have priorities. And I'm not saying, exactly like you said, Colin, it's like I'm not saying you have to go to the gym 6 times a week. It's like, I mean, lifting weights, I would encourage anybody to lift weights. Like resistance training is so good, not only physically, but also mentally. And I mean, sweating in general is good, but so, I mean, it's like if you can get to the gym twice a week, get to the gym twice a week, and then do whatever else you can throughout the week. Like
a quick story is like I'd come up with that little thing, or listen to Jesse. It's like an end of the year thing of getting ready for 2024. So I was just on a call that he did, and I put that together, and then I got home super late one night. I think I traveled, right? And then I came back, had to go right into meetings, got back super late, made the goal to try to sweat every day. Hadn't done it yet. Obviously, I hadn't seen my kids either because I was traveling. So it was like 8:30 at night. I think it's Friday night. And so I threw on my weighted vest and then took Graham, he's my middle kid, out with me. And we just out walking in the dark, dude. Like had a flashlight, out walking in the dark, checked off the box of sweating, checked off the box of spending time with my kids. And it was like one of the funnest, cool nights, even just to be able to connect with him one-on-one instead of all the kids together. And then we came up with some creative stuff to do. Like we were doing sprints and other stuff. It was like, he still talks about that, dude, like going out there. So I saw that for him too, of like that one-on-one time, seeing me exercise. And there's even times like he'll see someone out, you know, doing whatever. And he's like, you don't do that, Dad, right? Because like you like to go to the gym and like to exercise and stuff. So it's like, if you have kids though too, it's like they freaking pick up on everything. Yeah. Observe everything. So it's like, that's just a cool story of that. Of like, I didn't freaking go get a lift in that day. I didn't spend a ton of time with my kids, but like 30 minutes with him, checked all of his boxes, definitely filled my cup and checked my box, and then also got the physical side of it done too, and some cardio. And so it's like, that was just kind of a cool example of that as we're talking about balance. But
I love that, dude. I love that. Because I mean, what would you rather, like, what would you rather do with your kid, right? Would you rather, I mean, give him time one way or another, right? But it's like, would you rather sit and play a video game with him, or would you rather get out and be physically active with him and make memories like that? Because that's awesome, dude. That'll leave an impact forever, obviously, because it already has, and he still recalls it every now and then. So I love it, dude. That's awesome. Well, dude, Colin, I seriously appreciate, man, all that you have shared. Again, just look up to and admire you in so many ways, dude, and appreciate the knowledge of, um, what you do, the taking your vitamins. I know that wasn't your phrase or whatever, but it's something that you've implemented in your life and it's made a difference. And so I think that's something that everybody can easily take and apply. And I would encourage you to, if you're somebody who struggles, to get it all done. It's like, just know that you probably won't ever get it all done. And so have your priorities and take your vitamins and make sure you're doing the things that you need to do in order to feel your best. So I love it, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. Any last words of wisdom, Colin, before we call it good?
No, I don't think so, man. Yeah, I would just say, just for me, I think the world needs more leaders, right? And again, like I see that, I talk to so many people every single day, whether it's people on my team, people in the company I work with, homeowners that I go visit, on a weekly basis. Like, people are just looking to grasp onto something that makes them successful, right? And most people aren't as successful as they want to, but then it's like you really dive into the data, like the numbers as far as like people being either successful financially or having the types of relationships they want to have or the level of fitness they want to have. It doesn't all have to do with money. It's like, no matter what, as we're talking about those buckets and categories, like no one's really where they're at, and I have the unique opportunity to visit, like go into a lot of homes in a lot of different states across the country every month. And have met some incredible people, but it's kind of a scary situation out there, honestly, like some of the relationships where people are at and their fitness level and their income level and like just the economy as a whole too. So it's like, but everyone doesn't love where they're at either. Right. And I think most of the part is like people are willing to put in the work, right? They may not have the discipline yet, but I think they can all develop that. But they just don't know how, right? Or don't know where to start, right? And so like I've loved what you're doing, where it's like I don't think you ever grew up and you're like, I want to be a health coach and help people. It's like it's something that you figured out for yourself, right? You got good at it. And it's like, cool. Like now how can I help and teach other people, right? And here's the impact it had on me. Like, and I know I have it for other people too. So it's like people are looking for that, right? And so I think for most people, like a lot of times we're scared to share our advice, right? And don't just share BS advice, but if it's something you believe in, right, and have a conviction about, right, or have experience with, like people are looking for that and they want it. And again, no one's ever going to get mad at you for trying to help them. But like, I even think social media sometimes, like with just how heated it can get on there, people are scared to go out and show their face and say it. And
sure.
We've talked about that too, kind of even just like getting on and saying, all right, here, because you don't want to be that guy, right? But
Yep.
if it is truly helpful and adding value, like people are wanting that, right? And so just leadership in general, John Maxwell's book of 21 Laws of Leadership, he has one called The Law of Addition, right? So I actually have a thing written on my desk that says, I am intentional and I am an adder, right? So it's like, be an adder, right? Instead of a subtractor, right? So how can I add value? And then he even goes on to say, like, in every situation every interaction you have with someone, you either add or you subtract from it, right? There's no in between. And it could even just be talking to somebody, right? And so he said, and if you didn't add, then you subtracted, right? And so in all my conversations, even with people that drive through, like I just have tried to make it a focus to be intentional about being an adder, right? So whether it's complimenting them on something or saying, hey, here's kind of what I would recommend, or let me connect you with this person. If I can't provide the value, like how can I add to them? And that's leadership, right? And so I would just say like, that's what I'm trying to focus on and kind of would like to extend that, because I think that's how we get better as a whole, right? As a community, as a nation, a world, human beings, whatever that may be. It was like, it does, I think, come down to leadership and someone being able to kind of show the way how to do that. But a lot of times it's scary, right? Or you don't want to come off as like giving unsolicited advice, but if it's helpful, right, and it's adding value, then it's not that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's just something I think a challenge I've taken on, and it's been awesome to see. And I've had people text me after and like thank me for the conversation or whatever. And not that I did anything crazy, but it's like before I would have just BS'd with them and whatever, and okay, see ya, cool, good to see them. But how did I actually add to that person, right, and provide a little bit of value. And I think we can all do that. You know, we may not all be super dialed in on business or super dialed in fitness, but it's like, are you dialed in on your relationship? Or are you dialed in spiritually or whatever? So I'm trying to make that a big emphasis right now. So take it for what it's worth, but it's been really cool to try to implement that. It's kind of like a little challenge. So.
Love it, dude. Thank you so much, Colin. It's been awesome having you on and just hearing from you today and sharing your experience, and appreciate the nuggets of wisdom and advice you've given everybody today. So I really appreciate it, dude. Guys, I want to just reinforce and echo what Colin just said. Be an adder, not only in the lives of others, but in the like your own life as well. Add where you can. Take care of yourself, you know, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of the different ways that you have to. Take your vitamins, right? Like identify what your vitamins are first of all, and take them every single day. I don't know why that is just like really sticking with me right now. Probably because I need to do that more so in my life in different areas. It is funny because I feel like fitness it's easy for me. And I'll admit that to anybody that asks, like, fitness is easy for me. Eating healthy is relatively easy for me. And maybe it's because I've developed those habits, but it's also, I love it. Like, I really do love it. And I see the value and benefit that comes from it. So I want to do that in other areas of my life though. And so I appreciate that, Colin. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We're probably getting to that point where you're all sick of hearing our voices, so we're gonna cut it off here. But guys, seriously, unlock your full potential by being an adder, by taking your vitamins, and just improve yourself today. So, thanks again, Colin, and guys, we will talk to you next time.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.